It didn't begin with protests or lawsuits. Tesla's downfall started when customers stopped coming. For years, Elon Musk's electric vehicle empire appeared unstoppable, until declining sales painted a starkly different picture. Chinese buyers were the first to vanish, followed by a sharp drop in European demand. Eventually, even American consumers walked away. The shift was quiet but devastating, a financial storm building behind optimistic headlines. What triggered Tesla's rapid descent? Why are once loyal investors abandoning ship? And is this the moment Musk's electric vision finally fades? Wall Street isn't swayed by ambition. It reacts to numbers, and Tesla's were grim. As sales plunged, the stock market responded with brutal speed. Within just 6 months, Tesla's market value was cut in half. Investors who once celebrated Musk's every tweet began pulling out, trying to minimize losses. The breaking point came with a quarterly earnings report that showed back-to-back revenue drops, something the company hadn't seen in over 10 years. Confidence began to unravel. Analysts downgraded the stock, pointing to shrinking profit, margins, sluggish demand, and fierce competition. Large institutional investors who had treated Tesla as a golden investment started unloading shares in droves. But it wasn't just the big players backing out. Insiders, those most familiar with Tesla's inner workings, were selling too. Throughout 2024, top executives offloaded stock worth hundreds of millions of dollars. Even Elon Musk's own brother sold tens of millions in shares. The chief financial officer, head of operations, and even senior board members followed suit. While Musk made media appearances urging employees and retail investors to hold the line, those closest to him were quietly selling off their shares. This wasn't just a routine market correction. It was a clear signal of lost confidence from both Wall Street and Tesla's own leadership. And as the money drained away, the real unraveling began from within. Tesla's leadership started to fall apart. As institutional support faded, internal chaos took hold at Tesla's headquarters. Beneath the sleek product launches and polished marketing, the company's leadership structure was crumbling. What began as a slow trickle of executive departures early in 2024 became a full-blown exodus by year's end. Many of the key players who had helped shape Tesla into a global leader were leaving at an increasingly alarming pace. At first, the exits were subtle. Vice presidents, regional leaders, and senior engineers left quietly, barely making headlines. But things escalated quickly. By mid-2024, the chief financial officer, chief operating officer, and head of global sales had all announced their resignations. Officially, most cited personal reasons or new opportunities, but the overlapping timing told a different story. Internal reports painted a troubling picture. Sources described a toxic work environment marked by Musk's increasingly unpredictable leadership, micromanagement, frequent policy shifts, and an overall lack of stability. Following the collapse in sales and the crash in Tesla's stock price, the situation worsened. Musk intensified cost-cutting efforts, pushing for widespread layoffs and slashing budgets across departments with little notice. Morale inside the company reached a breaking point. The wave of departures wasn't limited to Tesla's top brass. Engineers, designers, plant managers, people responsible for the day-to-day creation and delivery of Tesla's vehicles, were also walking away in large numbers. And it wasn't just about salaries or stock options. Many insiders pointed to burnout, growing frustration, and a sense of disillusionment with a company that no longer felt like the innovative, mission-driven startup they had once believed in. As the leadership void widened, Tesla's ability to respond to mounting challenges crumbled. Every exit weakened the company's internal infrastructure, making it harder to solve production problems, execute strategy, or reassure rattled investors. But the damage didn't stop at executive offices or earnings reports. It began to show up in the very products that had once defined Tesla's dominance. The most visible failure was the long-delayed Cybertruck. After years of hype, teasers, and delays, Tesla finally began deliveries, but the launch quickly devolved into a PR disaster. Early buyers reported a litany of problems, from sloppy trim work to glitchy software. More seriously, several Cybertruck units had to be recalled due to structural flaws that posed serious safety risks in crashes. Then the legal battles began. Customers who had pre-ordered Cybertrucks based on promises of unmatched safety and cutting-edge performance filed class action lawsuits when the vehicles didn't deliver. Consumer watchdogs and federal regulators followed suit, opening investigations into Tesla's marketing and safety practices. But the Cybertruck fiasco was just part of the unraveling. Tesla's prized full self-driving technology, once positioned as the future of transportation, had become a glaring vulnerability. Years of bold claims about self-driving cars being just around the corner came under harsh scrutiny as the tech continued to fall short. Accidents involving Tesla vehicles operating in autonomous mode triggered government probes, recalls, and lawsuits. In critical moments, the software failed, misjudging objects, missing pedestrians, even veering into oncoming traffic. Each new incident chipped away at the public's trust. What had once been Tesla's crown jewel was now its most dangerous liability. As the products faltered and the tech stumbled, an even more volatile force was gaining momentum outside Tesla's walls. A growing public backlash, and it was about to ignite a global reckoning. It started subtly. Just a few scattered protests outside Tesla dealerships. Executives dismissed them as noise, and the media barely paid attention. But like cracks in a dam, those early demonstrations were just the beginning. Within weeks, the protests spread across continents, growing into a global movement that took aim at Tesla's most visible assets: its showrooms, service centers, and supercharger stations. By the time Tesla grasped the scale of what was unfolding, locations in major cities like New York, Chicago, Berlin, and Shanghai were facing daily disruptions. In San Diego, demonstrators chained themselves to showroom entrances, preventing staff and potential buyers from entering. In Chicago, protesters plastered Tesla store windows with oversized posters accusing Elon Musk of corruption and political manipulation. In London, activists spray-painted slogans across Tesla logos and wallpapered the walls with images calling out Musk's controversial public statements. The protests were bold, inventive, and relentless, and they refused to be ignored. The unrest didn't stop at the showrooms. Supercharger stations, once symbols of Tesla's clean energy promise, turned into battlegrounds. In both small towns and major metro areas, vandals targeted charging infrastructure, smashing ports, cutting cables, and defacing equipment with graffiti. Some stations were even set on fire, grabbing headlines around the world. What had once been a sleek, aspirational brand now carried a different weight. Driving a Tesla had become more than a lifestyle choice. It was suddenly a political flashpoint, even a liability. Nothing like this had ever happened in the automotive industry. A company's entire public-facing infrastructure, its storefronts, service hubs, and core user experience, was under siege. Tesla's image of futuristic innovation was being dismantled in real time, and with every burned charger and defaced showroom, public sentiment shifted further against the company. But as the physical protests escalated, a quieter, more far-reaching backlash was unfolding online, one aimed directly at Tesla's core customers. While streets filled with signs and slogans, digital spaces lit up with something just as powerful: a wave of anti-Elon sentiment that spread like wildfire across social media. What began as scattered frustration turned into a coordinated digital movement, intent on dismantling the very foundation of Musk's empire. One tweet, one post, and one customer at a time. It started with hashtags, simple, punchy, and viral. Phrases like "boycott Tesla," "dump Musk," and "sell your Tesla" began trending across platforms: Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, gaining traction with each passing controversy. Videos of vandalized Teslas, angry former owners, and viral exposés linking Musk to polarizing political figures flooded social feeds. Every protest, every Musk tweet, and every negative headline added fuel to the fire. What started as scattered outrage was quickly morphing into a deliberate and coordinated campaign. It didn't stop at social media noise. The movement evolved into something far more organized. Websites like TeslaTakedown.com emerged, offering a central hub for disillusioned owners and activists alike. Their mission was straightforward but effective: persuade current Tesla drivers to sell their vehicles at below-market prices, saturating the used market and dragging down Tesla's resale value. The financial hit was immediate, but the reputational damage ran deeper. Former Tesla loyalists who once flaunted their cars on social media began speaking out, sharing stories of disappointment and regret. YouTube channels and online forums that had previously celebrated Tesla's every move became platforms for criticism. Videos documented manufacturing flaws, questionable business decisions, and personal disillusionment. Musk's political moves were dissected, debated, and widely condemned. The very online community that had propelled Tesla into the stratosphere had turned into a machine, dismantling it piece by piece. This digital revolt spread with viral intensity. It wasn't about stock prices or quarterly earnings anymore. It was about identity, about reshaping what Tesla meant and who Elon Musk had become in the public eye. For every person chanting in the streets, there were tens of thousands posting, sharing, and reshaping the narrative online. By the time Tesla's leadership acknowledged the movement, it had already taken on a life of its own. But while the online backlash raged, a second, even more volatile crisis was gaining momentum, one that reached into the very core of Tesla's consumer base. It wasn't vandalism or market shifts. It was political. A firestorm ignited not by protesters or pundits, but by Elon Musk himself. Musk's decision to publicly align with former President Donald Trump was calculated. He saw it as a tactical move, a way to gain favor with the administration, secure government contracts, and shield Tesla from rising regulatory threats. But what he misjudged was the backlash from Tesla's primary audience. The brand had always drawn strong support from liberal and progressive consumers, people who had seen Tesla not just as a car company, but as a symbol of climate action, innovation, and social progress. Musk's political pivot struck them as a betrayal. And the consequences came fast. These were not just car buyers. They were environmentally conscious consumers who had embraced Tesla as more than a brand. To them, Tesla represented the future, clean energy, cutting-edge technology, and a rebellion against fossil fuel giants. Musk's decision to align himself with Trump and appear alongside administration officials shattered that image in an instant. What had once been a symbol of sustainability was now, in the eyes of many, politically compromised. Progressive Tesla owners felt blindsided. Their admiration for Musk had been rooted not only in innovation, but in shared values. Now, the man they had supported for over a decade seemed to stand in opposition to those ideals. The response was swift and unforgiving. Prominent liberal voices, from influencers to tech leaders to environmental organizations, condemned Musk's political pivot. Headlines that once praised his genius now questioned his motives and character. Longtime fans took to social media to announce they were selling their Teslas and cutting ties with the company altogether. And the consequences reached far beyond public opinion. Musk's political maneuvering sparked formal investigations, congressional scrutiny, and regulatory pressure. The doors he had tried to open through political alignment began slamming shut as the outrage mounted. The protests and online boycotts had already shaken the company, but this firestorm reached deeper. It scorched the core of Tesla's identity, severing the emotional bond between the brand and its most loyal supporters. What followed was something even more damaging: the death of brand loyalty. Tesla had once thrived on a unique form of devotion. Customers who didn't just buy the cars, but evangelized the mission. That loyalty began to collapse under the combined weight of physical unrest, digital rebellion, and political fallout. People who had once proudly paid top dollar for a Tesla now scrutinized the company's every move with suspicion. Trust, once the unshakable foundation of Tesla's success, began to crumble in real time. Surveys showed steep declines in approval among key audiences. Progressive, climate-focused consumers, those who had built Tesla into a cultural juggernaut, were leaving the brand en masse. Online forums and comment sections filled with stories of disillusionment, not just about the cars, but about what Tesla now represented. The damage wasn't just economic, it was existential. This wasn't about sales dips or a bad quarter. It was about a breach of identity, a rupture of trust that no marketing campaign or product reveal could heal. Tesla had become toxic to many of the very people who once carried it to the top. And as the company scrambled to control the narrative and stop the bleeding, a new and even more formidable threat was emerging, not from the public, not from competitors, but from Washington. The federal government was closing in. A crackdown was imminent, and it targeted the very core of Tesla's identity, its self-driving technology. Elon Musk had long positioned autonomy as Tesla's most powerful asset. More than battery range, more than design, more than brand appeal, full self-driving FSD was supposed to revolutionize transportation and solidify Tesla's dominance for decades. But beneath the polished software rollouts and bold promises, pressure had been mounting. Regulators, safety advocates, and families of crash victims were closing in, and with Donald Trump's return to the White House in January 2025, that quiet pressure exploded into a full-blown political and legal storm. The new administration moved fast. Within Trump's first 100 days, the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration, NHTSA, launched a formal investigation into Tesla's full self-driving system. The findings were brutal. The agency linked at least 37 fatalities nationwide to Tesla vehicles operating in autonomous mode. Even more damning were leaked internal documents that revealed Tesla's own engineers had raised red flags about safety issues, warnings that appeared to have been dismissed by leadership. The Department of Justice soon followed with a criminal investigation into whether Tesla had misled the public and investors about the capabilities and readiness of its self-driving tech. Lawsuits poured in from families of victims and disillusioned drivers alleging that Musk's lofty promises had risked and cost lives. Consumer advocacy groups called for mass recalls. State governments in California and New York began pulling back Tesla's testing privileges. The dream of autonomy, once sold as a safer future, was now seen as a reckless gamble. Even long-time Tesla supporters were shaken. For the first time, questions were being asked not just about when FSD would arrive, but whether it ever should. What began as a technical issue had snowballed into a moral and legal crisis, and Tesla's leadership was left scrambling. But before the company could regain its footing, another blow landed, one that would challenge its business model at a structural level. The next hit didn't come from a courtroom, it came from Washington's economic playbook. In April 2025, President Trump signed the American EV Leadership Act, a sweeping piece of legislation aimed at reshaping the electric vehicle market. It emphasized one thing above all: made in America. And Tesla, ironically, found itself sidelined. Buried deep in the fine print of the American EV Leadership Act was a message that couldn't have been clearer. Tesla was out, the new law tied. All federal EV subsidies and tax incentives to automakers whose operations and workforce were at least 80% US-based. On paper, it was framed as a patriotic economic initiative. In practice, it was a direct hit to Tesla's global model. While Tesla maintained high-profile factories in California, Texas, and Nevada, much of its supply chain and critical manufacturing was still deeply tied to international partners, including Chinese battery firms and European facilities. Competitors like Ford, GM, Rivian, and Lucid had spent years reshoring operations and aligning themselves with Made in America policies. Practically overnight, they became the darlings of the federal government. Meanwhile, Tesla's vehicles suddenly lost thousands of dollars in competitive advantage. The EV tax credits that had once fueled its rise were gone, and price-conscious buyers took notice. Fleet contracts, municipal purchases, and government agencies began shifting their loyalty to companies backed by the new nationalistic incentives. But the financial gut punch didn't stop there. The same legislation unlocked exclusive access to federal grants and government fleet contracts, lucrative opportunities Tesla could no longer touch. The result was catastrophic. As competitors gained ground domestically, Tesla found itself cut out of the very system it had once dominated. And just as the US closed its doors, a far greater storm was brewing overseas, one that would strike from across the Pacific. Tesla's unraveling in China had already been set in motion, but geopolitical tensions lit the match. In response to the Trump administration's aggressive trade policies and new restrictions on Chinese tech exports, Beijing retaliated with precision. Tesla, as one of the most prominent foreign players in China's booming EV market, became collateral damage. By mid-2025, the Chinese government rolled out sweeping regulations aimed squarely at non-domestic EV manufacturers. Tesla lost access to local subsidies, tax breaks, and streamlined supply chain logistics almost overnight. State-backed rivals like BYD, NIO, and Xpeng were fast-tracked as the face of China's green future. Tesla, meanwhile, was buried in new red tape. The Shanghai Gigafactory, once a centerpiece of Tesla's global production strategy, faced increasing regulatory slowdowns, surprise inspections, and import-export complications. The message from China was loud and clear: Tesla's time was up. Sales in China, which once made up nearly a third of Tesla's global revenue, collapsed by over 50% in just 3 months. Nationalist campaigns urging Chinese citizens to buy. Local gained viral traction. Social media was flooded with hashtags denouncing foreign brands, with Tesla often at the center. Regional governments piled on, introducing new taxes and inspection policies that directly targeted Tesla vehicles. Even more damaging, Tesla's dependence on Chinese battery makers and mineral suppliers was now a glaring vulnerability. As China tightened its grip on the EV supply chain, Tesla's production capabilities, already battered by public backlash and political fallout, were stretched to a breaking point. Tesla wasn't just losing ground, it was losing the world. As trade relations continued to deteriorate, Tesla's contracts with Chinese suppliers and manufacturing partners began to collapse. Some were outright cancelled, while others were renegotiated under punishing new terms. Costs surged across the board: raw materials, shipping, production. Delivery delays became routine. Customers in China, once proud early adopters of Tesla vehicles, now turned away in droves. The brand that had once symbolized cutting-edge status was suddenly toxic. But while the implosion overseas was devastating, it was the collapse at home that would finally tip Tesla into freefall. The company's last remaining shield, its deep well of government support, was about to vanish. And with it, so would Tesla's ability to survive the perfect storm that had engulfed it from all sides. As the walls closed in, Elon Musk didn't retreat. He went on the offensive, but not in a way that inspired confidence. Instead of addressing the company's structural problems or acknowledging the crumbling consumer trust, Musk defaulted to spectacle. A barrage of desperate PR stunts and erratic stock maneuvers followed. Musk live-streamed surprise meetings with employees, projecting a message of unity and resilience. He filed lawsuits against high-profile critics and even politicians, alleging defamation and sabotage. His social media feed exploded with memes, cryptic provocations, and overt political endorsements designed to dominate headlines. It was a now-familiar tactic. Overwhelm the media cycle, confuse the narrative, and try to spin chaos into momentum. But this time, the magic was gone. The market saw through it. Investors, once enchanted by Musk's unpredictability, now viewed his behavior as flailing, not innovating. The carefully orchestrated media blitz came off as desperation. Wall Street didn't call it strategy. They called it what it was: damage control without a plan. Musk begged employees to hold the line, to keep their shares, to believe in the mission. Emergency town halls were held in Tesla factories and offices. He claimed the protests, the lawsuits, the crashing sales. They were all temporary, all overblown. But the truth behind the curtain was far grimmer. The real story wasn't on Twitter or in the headlines. It was in the boardrooms and brokerages. The people who understood Tesla best were quietly getting out. Long-time insiders, senior board members, and trusted institutional investors weren't sticking around to wait for a comeback. They were liquidating positions, moving assets, and stepping away. Some did it quietly. Others resigned without explanation. But together, their actions sent a clear message. They no longer believed the ship could be righted. Tesla, once a symbol of unstoppable innovation, was now bleeding from every direction. Financially, operationally, reputationally. And the captain at the helm, louder than ever, but increasingly alone. Tesla's rapid decline has captivated the world's attention. And now the question remains, can Tesla survive this, or is bankruptcy just around the corner? A series of factors have led the company to this critical juncture. It's not just about the failed promises of self-driving technology or the loss of government support. It's the erosion of trust at every level: customers, employees, investors, and the unraveling of the dream that once seemed unshakable. The political drama and divisive stances of Elon Musk have certainly played a role in alienating a large segment of Tesla's core customer base, particularly the progressive, environmentally conscious buyers who once saw Tesla as more than just a car company. These consumers believed in Tesla's vision to revolutionize energy, but Musk's controversial political affiliations, particularly his association with former President Donald Trump, shattered that ideal. On top of that, Tesla's promises of fully autonomous driving have proven to be more fantasy than reality, leaving customers disillusioned and law enforcement closing in. The self-driving debacle, with its accidents and fatalities, not only jeopardized the safety of Tesla owners, but also cast a shadow on the company's credibility. Even longtime supporters are questioning whether the technology will ever live up to Musk's grandiose claims. The financial fallout is even more alarming. When Tesla executives, including Musk's own brother and key financial officers, began selling off huge amounts of stock, it signaled a lack of confidence in the company's future. And when institutional investors started pulling out in droves, the writing was on the wall. Tesla's stock, once the darling of Wall Street, plummeted, and with it, much of its public image as the undisputed leader in the electric vehicle market. Meanwhile, the protests and boycotts, whether on the streets or online, have painted a target on Tesla's back, further eroding its brand. What once symbolized innovation now feels like a toxic, politically charged symbol of corporate greed and scandal. Despite all of this, Tesla still has a strong brand recognition and loyal fans who continue to believe in Musk's vision, even as the company teeters on the brink. The question remains: can Tesla survive this collapse? Is it too big to fail, or has the company passed the point of no return? Will it be the political fallout, the product failures, or the shattered trust that seals Tesla's fate? It's clear that Musk's empire is facing its darkest hour, and the world is watching closely to see whether Tesla can regroup and rebuild, or if it's destined to be yet another cautionary tale of ambition, excess, and the fragility of public trust. What do you think? Can Tesla claw its way back, or is bankruptcy inevitable? Let me know in the comments. I'm curious to hear your thoughts.